Burgess and Bolton's weekly wrap-up.
Hello, Ben. Oh,
Oh,
eating itself.
what the heck's going on? Hi, everybody. Hi, Jeremy. Happy Friday.
Yes. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Burgess and Bolton's weekly wrap-up, where we look at everything to do with the London market, technology change, innovation. And this week, as always, we'll start with the news, and we actually do have some news. A new CEO of Lloyd's announced, Ben.
Yes.
Is that any surprise?
Oh, what? Not him.
Who is it?
Not the one who's been flagged all the way along for 6 months, and nobody else was discussed in the whole thing, and was recommended by the outgoing chair. No surprise. Zero surprise.
Yeah. So I look back actually on the show archives to see when we first kind of said that John Neal was leaving. I think it was back in January or really early February. So it's taken an awfully long time to.
It has. And given that was. No, I mean, in hindsight now, it looks as if he was the shoe-in for the job and the internal candidate. It does seem slow. I don't know, the world's speeding up. Let's be snappier about these things, I say. Get one out. If he's going, he's going. Kick him out, either into the garden or his next job. Get the new chap in.
Yeah.
Don't mess around.
Well, let's look forward. So I think we both saw the LMA's press release where they've kind of outlined the 5 priorities that Patrick and his new team should be looking at. So we probably just spend a few minutes just talking about those, Ben. I don't think there's any particular surprise over the majority of them. So the first being to maintain underwriting profitability and discipline. I mean, that's all pretty straightforward. I think the second one, again, remain attractive to capital. No one's going to argue with that. The third one is where we get into kind of the Blueprint 2 territory, which is kind of up for debate, I think. So the third objective is to continue our simplification and digitization journey as we grasp the opportunity of artificial intelligence and data. While AI is today helping insurers to reduce costs, it must harness it to help evolve products towards prediction and prevention of loss. So that's quite a vision.
That's I think they've lost the plot on that one.
Yeah, I mean that is
don't you? I mean I think it's what I'm saying is I think it needs to be more considered than that. So I think it's important to say that what I think we've said, and we know this, we're dealing with a lot of people in this whole AI area, aren't we? And I don't think any of them are yet saying we're into prediction and all that sort of stuff. I think they're being more circumspect than that. I think it's I don't know whether I don't really know what the role of LMA is to say that sort of thing when the new chap's coming in. Isn't that his job to evaluate that and decide? It feels like that's running ahead of where our AI is anyway, and it'd be great if it saved cost, quite frankly, as well. There's a problem with cost in the market that hasn't shifted. So I feel like it also rather implies that, well, don't worry, insurers have done the cost thing, we're on to the next thing. I don't think that's in any way near to the reality of it. So I don't feel that's a really good one to say. The other two are what he said already as well, by the way.
Yeah. And I also think it's, as we've witnessed over the years, trying to get the various market modernization programs over the line. It's just really complicated and difficult. And to just have 2 lines to say we've just got to continue on the journey, is it actually an opportunity to take stock and say, well,
yeah,
are the plans that have been put in place the right plans for today? Because they were developed, pre-AI, I suppose, Gen AI. I'm talking about. So, it's interesting. I think it'd be really interesting to see what he says. I think phase 1 of Blueprint 2 will happen as kind of outlined. It's a kind of the next phase, the phase 2. How much of that they're going to get behind, or they're going to leave it more to competitive forces, or who knows? But I think that is a funny one. I think.
I think it's funny to come out with these 5 things, because what Tiernan's got to do probably is either revisit the strategy, rework the strategy, redo the strategy, and then, as you say, those things will fall into place as part of what are the essential things that we must do to compete. Because I think that the second one about remaining attractive to capital is really, really important. And if you read between the lines on that, they're struggling to attract capital, and they have been for quite some time because of global forces. Now, I think you can and competitive markets, but that is a big issue, really, because it isn't just to do with Lloyd's; it's to do with how capital is being applied and utilized around the world in a different economy, and where insurance fits at a global scale. So I think there's to kind of then jump into then we'll sort AI out and we'll do Blueprint, and it feels to me like I would like Tiernan to be talking initially at a really strategic level about why does Lloyd's matter to the world at all? Why does London matter? Why is it important? What's going on? And have a really, have a realistic take on what's possible. Whereas I think some of these things from the LMA, they're like more wishful thinking than a sort of really considered, as you said, I think you're right with that, a really considered strategy that people can buy into, and appreciating the complexities, the challenges, the difficulties,
Yeah.
I just think it's easy to call from the sidelines about, oh, let's do this and then do that and throw AI in. And, it's not, it definitely isn't as simple as that, I think. And it's early to be doing that. He's only just been appointed.
Yeah, I think so. The last point is probably actually one of the most important ones. Continue to attract the most outstanding global talent. To offer a world-class. We must offer a world-class culture across the market. I have no idea what that means, but anyway.
Well, I don't either. That's why I think this is throwaway lines. Again, I don't hold anything for the LMA, but I don't know. I just don't know where these come from, because it's like, offer a world-class culture. Well, that's nice, but if you do a proper strategy, you really have to work out what's absolutely fundamentally important to your future, to the competitive survival of a market. And just saying offer a world-class culture, well, I don't know what the definition of that is. I don't know what that means. I'd probably argue that Lloyd's has nothing near to a world-class culture if something or such a thing exists. I think we want culture that's appropriate to what we're trying to achieve as well. There's different cultures. There's all sorts of businesses operating in this market with different cultures and things. So I don't think there's a sort of one-size-fits-all cultural model, is there?
No, I don't think so. Anyway, so I think we'll wait and see what Patrick's got to say. So I think you make a good point around, take a little bit of time to make a strategic assessment, and then have the plan and get everyone on board around how it's going to be.
Yeah,
rolled out.
I'd like to see some numbers, what we're trying to achieve, where the market's going. I know there's businesses that are saying, well, fine, Lloyd's is Lloyd's, but we're going to expand globally with establishing offices in other countries, in the US, for example. So there's massive moves in the E&S market, where so you've got to. I want to see specifics around this sort of stuff, not just cliches around what we should do or that sort of thing, because actually that's what moves you forward. A proper, realistic strategy, that aligns with customers. I think the other thing is really what's happening in terms of delivery of product and innovation and growth as well, which is kind of in that LMA stuff, but not really. It's alluded to through those comments, but the market we talked about this last week, the market hasn't grown. It might be profitable and they can all pat themselves on the back, but that's more luck than judgment. Not just in my opinion, but factually that's true. It's good investment returns and higher, good rates. We're going into a softer market with lower investment returns potentially in a more volatile world. So I kind of think maybe what you need from Lloyd's is more of the innovation. My sense is, and I don't know, but my sense is more of the innovation, more of the new products, a shift towards expertise, ideas, all that sort of stuff, around cyber, around climate, around all the things where insurance can help. So it's I think it's I think it's he should be good. I think I've seen speeches and what he said in the past, and I think he's got sensible, realistic kind of views on the market, and he's also a progressive, so that's good.
Yeah. I don't know him. I don't know him at all, but everyone I've spoken to who does know him seems to think exactly along the lines that you just said, Ben. So yeah, I'm looking forward to kind of his first speech announcement, however he's going to do it, and we'll see.
Yeah, I think he'll throw back on some of this stuff, all these advice he gets, and all this stuff. This is what we want you to do, and then I think if he's got any sense, he'll just push that all back and say, "I'll do it my way. Thank you very much."
Yeah, indeed. One to watch. Right. Okay. Let's move on. I was trying to load up the stat of the week jingle, Ben, and I managed to update the software, and then it doesn't work anymore. So the only jingle I've got is. Hey
Ben, what's the word on the data stream?
Still good.
It's still good. It never loses its appeal.
No. But anyway, I thought we'd play that ahead of this slide, which is the Bieber conference slide. He's got what a lineup that is.
I know this is the conference you want to run, isn't it? This is the one. This is where you want to be, Jeremy.
Yeah, I was trying to guess who they all are. So on the right hand side, we've got George Alagaya. Is he a newsreader or is?
Yes, I think that's George Alagaya. Yes, or is it Clive Myrie?
Oh, maybe yes.
Clive Myrie. It's Clive Myrie. Yeah, friend of Bieber, new friend of Bieber. Let's not talk about the old friend.
Let's not go there. We've got Gareth Southgate.
Yeah, I don't know who he is.
Never heard of him. Penny Mordaunt.
Yes. Look, she's got the biggest photo, hasn't she? Just to fit her hair in.
I don't know why she is the kind of the keynote. She's only famous for holding a sword, isn't she?
Well, she did well in Dive, that TV show.
Never seen it. I don't know who the next guy is.
Anthony Joshua.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. There we go. And he's going to be fighting. He's going to be fighting Harriet Harman.
Yeah, I know. She'll win.
She'll win. And then I don't know who the guy with the eye is.
Justin. Oh, I've forgotten his name. I had it. Justin. He's a TV presenter. Radio presenter, but he's also an expert on US politics. It'll come back to me. So I'm very sorry, all of our fans out there.
Listeners.
I'll remember. They'll all know. They'll be shouting at me who it is.
Yeah. So what a lineup that is.
Yeah, it's amazing who they get, and it's a huge. They may get 10,000, they may just be under 10,000, but it's a very big event.
Yeah,
mainly the UKGI market, but there's a lot of London people there as well. It's a Manchester takeover for a few days. It's incredibly energetic when you get there. Big buzz, a lot of business is done, discussed. It's a phenomenon, really. We have a stand.
Great.
Christchurch Insurandex and a stand there, so we're doing some filming. We'll do we're going to do a walk around looking at the stands and how good, what are the best ones, the ones we like and why.
Yeah.
Do some interviews, so we'll get some of them put in the show in future.
Cool. Well, what's the date?
Yeah.
What's the date of the event?
It's Tuesday. Really starts on Wednesday, and so it's Wednesday, Thursday next week. Justin Webb. Thanks, Max.
There you go.
Obviously, knew that.
Yeah, Justin
website. Justin Webb.
There we go. That was that's good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Last year, I remember you. I think it was Hiscox who had the Mad stand with a kind of virtual reality.
Yeah.
Was it incredible? I'd never seen anything like it.
Yes, it's great. I don't know. They've got something planned for this year, I think. So I don't know what it is until we get there. So we'll find out. We might this year try and interview some people on the stand about the stand if they're there. But we will see if we can find it. It's a bit difficult when you get in the hall to, it's like a bun fight, really.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We will get this. We'll get the walk around done anyway, at least. But yeah, there'll be some. All the big insurers are there, so they'll all be up. Getting one-upmanship in terms of stand, envy, and all that.
Yeah. I think we'll talk about that in terms of brand, because that is. I think that I went along to your conference, Ben, the marketing conference. That was great. I thought that was really good. So we'll see if some of those themes are playing out in reality at the Viva event.
Well, you've also got because RSA and NIG are merging this year from I think June, end of June, or maybe it's a bit later. But anyway, they're going to become intact. So there's a major brand shift in the market with a fourth big player when we've only had three in that UKGI market. So the new player intact, even if you just look at its share of the market, it has a fourth share when it brings it all together, but it's bringing it together under a new brand. So they will inevitably have to advertise a lot.
Yeah.
And so that means everyone else has to react and respond and so on, and they've got a service place. So I think suddenly this market, which was a bit, you might argue was a bit dull in the past, not much changed, has now suddenly kind of exploded into life this year. So it'd be very interesting to see what people's views are about all of that.
Definitely. Good. We'll pick that up.
Yeah.
Later on. What did we say what the date was? I can't remember.
Yes, it's the 14th and 15th of May. So it's next Wednesday and Thursday, but people go Tuesday to Thursday largely.
Right. Okay. Good. All right. So we'll get some footage maybe for next week, but definitely the weekend.
Yeah, I'll have some. I should have some. Yeah, if I can, if I'm not too exhausted on Friday.
Yeah.
It's a long way.
I went to the EMIC conference, which was also in Manchester, and I made the mistake of ringing somebody up and saying, I'll be back in a couple of hours. I'm just about to get on the train. At that point, all trains out of Manchester were cancelled.
Yes, I do remember that, and I have just been warned. I'm debating whether to be very brief on this, not to be dull about this on a show. But I'm going to drive. Is a short story because there is still problems with those trains to Manchester. So I'm electing to take my chances on the motorways.
Yeah. Good luck. Right. I just wanted to pick up. So we've already talked a little bit about kind of digital transformation and simplification in that LMA kind of statement, but I just wanted to kind of touch on AI, and I saw this in insurance business. Berkshire Hathaway takes a wait and see approach before committing to AI revolution. Well, there's a couple of things in that AI revolution. So you already know it's going to be a revolution, and you're saying, we're going to wait and see.
Yeah,
We're going to see. So I just thought I'd kind of just put this in context, because they're an outlier as far as I can tell. So every other article on that slipcase that came through yesterday, email, was basically everyone else piling in, doing projects, seeing how they could use AI. And actually most of the stuff they're talking about is machine learning, so it's not really AI or Gen AI. It's really kind of advanced analytics. But anyway, they're still piling into the data and analytic space with a view to looking at AI. And I've run a couple of breakfast briefings this week, and everybody around the table, and they were senior leaders, mainly from ops and IT, but there were some CEOs there as well, who were all saying that things like Copilot and kind of AI assistants, let's call them that, will become table stakes. And if you're not investing in just those kind of tactical pieces, you should be, and otherwise you're going to be left behind. So that's kind of the kind of tactical piece. And then around this AI revolution, I think people will say, well, then if you look more towards the medium term, then you can really see how AI will take, as we've talked about before, layers of kind of admin out of people's operating model, allowing them to reduce costs. And let's come back to the competitive advantage piece that we started with the appointment of Patrick. That will allow brokers to charge less, maintain their profitability, and hopefully then, as a result, we should be able to attract more into the market. So let's take it as read that we will become more efficient, either as individual firms or through market modernization. If we can pass that on to customers and clients, I think that's a massive opportunity then to grow.
Yeah. I agree. I was thinking about this, and I have I'll just kind of offer a couple of views on it. One is, I think that Berkshire Hathaway, to me, is largely a kind of it's a very investment driven business. It's about taking stakes in business, and it's about acquisitions, and it's about and its insurance business is a huge part of what it does, but it is a kind of slightly stepped away model. It's not saying we're going to innovate and develop new products. I mean, they tried to do a bit of that, I know, but fundamentally they don't do as much of that as some others who are kind of more, let's say even in the MGA space, doing that sort of thing. So I don't necessarily see that they ever, I don't think they see themselves as anything other than what Warren Buffett describes them as, which is follow the money, follow the investments. And he's clearly a genius at that stuff. There's no question about that. He's outperformed all sorts of markets over the years, and he he's that. So so I can understand why they might say, look, we're going to be a bit careful about all of this, because, they might be thinking, well, we're still looking at investments, and that's a human judgment, and it's ability to read a balance sheet and everything else. But the other side of this really is that we're a product industry largely. It's not it is a service, but it's a product-led industry. You have all sorts of products with all sorts of weird and wonderful names that cover all sorts of weird and wonderful things, and those weird and wonderful things get ever more weird and wonderful as the world evolves. And so it seems to me then you think about, where does AI work or not work? And I think, going back to Berkshire Hathaway, if you look at it through a financial lens, you may say, yeah, could be some risks in that. That might be dodgy for us, because our skill set is in the reading between the lines, reading the runes, getting the sense of the market's fear or greed at any given time, and then jumping in with lots of money to invest. Whereas product development, I think, is different. I think it's about a good idea, something that solves a problem for the customer. It's more the business end of things, if you see what I mean. It's more the entrepreneurial end of things. And there, I think AI does have a real potential, not just for reducing costs, but for sort of developing, services and products, and as you say, sort of helping all sorts of people around the world to kind of use data and distill it into something that's more valuable, it's valuable to a customer. And I think, therefore, you might see a revolution in that end of things. It may take a while, but it will start to come because so many people will be able to do it. And of course, therefore, to finish this off, you go back to Berkshire Hathaway and they'll probably say, yes, we'll wait and see if all these people scurrying around come up with good ideas and good investments. We'll pounce on them and buy them, and Bob's your uncle.
Yeah.
He did a similar thing, if you remember, with Apple, and he wouldn't invest in Apple. And he did say, I think, if I remember right, it was one of his big mistakes, because he said it was all a bit overblown, Apple, and they couldn't keep growing at the rate they were. And then before he knew it, they were $1 trillion business. And he'd somewhat missed the boat, although he latterly invested in them. So he's had, I think the Buffett empire has had a bit of a natural skepticism about technology. But it's an area where it's probably the one area they haven't done so well in, if you see what I mean. I think they're much more traditional manufacturing, businesses where they can really see what's going on. Unlike, I guess, can you imagine Buffett looking at an AI business saying, where's the balance sheet? What's the actual value of this? It's not easily measurable, right? It's a punt and a bet. And he probably feels right. Even though he's gone now, he's retired at the age of
94.
94. Yeah.
So he's actually retiring. I think he's retiring this year. So he's still officially in charge at the moment.
Yes, he's going to step down, and he didn't tell them in advance. So he says he just decided to surprise them at the age of 94 that he was retiring.
Massive shock. By the end of the year, it says here. Year end, sorry.
Yeah.
Greg Abel is taking over.
Yeah, Greg Abel, yeah.
Long-term deputy. So
Yeah. So I mean, it is interesting. I don't know that Berkshire Hathaway is the lead, but it's good to have the contrary viewpoint, isn't it?
Yes, because it does make you
think.
To your point earlier, what's the strategic objective here, whether it's the business, a market, or and then how do these tools allow us to get there faster, quicker, whatever. So interesting times, very interesting.
Yeah.
I can like that. Okay. Mental health, Ben.
From AI to mental health. So it's kind of interesting. I picked this up from Axis. It's a survey of it's Mental Health Awareness Month, and this is a survey that they did on what's interesting. You might expect. I just think I had some questions about it. Some good stuff in here, but I also have some questions. And is your experience, Jeremy, do you think 9 in 10 insurance employees either have or acknowledge wide stress anxiety in the industry? I can't say I feel that's as widespread as that.
That's a lot, isn't it?
Well, so let me just be specific. About 8 in 10 insurance employees mentioned seeking mental health support for themselves in the last year. For younger employees, 82%, 81%. So particularly among the younger employees, significantly more than older employees, whereas 64%. But still, all those numbers are really high to me. That suggests that nearly everybody in the industry has this year asked to have some help with mental health, which might mean that you and I are the only two who haven't. It's a high number.
It is very high.
I mean, it's kind of interesting, like all these things are, but it's, I wonder if it's people who've answered this who are, there's a bit of confirmation bias here, that people who answer it are people who are interested in the topic or have had experience of mental health and therefore answered it on that basis.
Yeah.
Because the methodology, I don't want to bore on about methodology, but it doesn't allow for, a cross section of people who where there is no bias. So there's a potential bias in here. I'm just pointing that out because it's a pretty depressing thing if that's what's going on in the industry. I mean, forget AI, forget the future, forget everything. Everybody's
sat at their desk,
stressed to do anything based on this.
Wow.
So the other one, I mean, to be fair, there was 300 people in the US and 100 in the UK, so it's not like a big study. It's a bit of a press study. But I do think the mental health issue is interesting. I mean, I think it's interesting, and I think it relates to what we were talking about on culture and how people feel about their jobs and everything else. Quite a lot of people said they didn't feel that insurance prioritized mental health initiatives as much as other industries. And it wasn't talked about enough and so on. Intuitively, I feel that it's not talked about enough in financial services is probably about right. It's a very kind of macho environment, isn't it? I think, although I think it's got better. Work-life balance was an issue, and always is in every survey. Ability to focus at work, and mental health resources a bit less satisfied, and people feeling a bit undervalued. And there is one interesting thing: the resources found to be most helpful are flexible work arrangements, mental health days, and financial wellness programs. So I thought actually the last one was quite interesting: financial wellness programs.
Yeah, so maybe people are stressed about, and they just happen to be at work most of the time.
So they may be feeling that they're working, like on a hamster wheel a bit. That's the sense of this, and I think that is, because we've got to add AI in on every conversation we have. Obviously, I just wonder whether in the future AI will alleviate some of that, because we've got a very heavily administrative, bureaucratic sort of industry, haven't we? And that we're in, or we deal with. And that's maybe why this sort of thing comes out, even if we say it may be a bit, maybe a bit OTT in its findings.
I wonder also, Ben, whether there was a trend a few years, maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago, perhaps, when insurtechs were starting to come through. Annoying word as it is, but anyway, and people saying, "Oh, we need to have an insurtech mindset, a fail fast." And there's things wrong with that phrase, but essentially what we're talking about is the space to be able to try stuff and innovate. And if it doesn't exactly go to plan, then you're not going to get fired. And I think that our industry doesn't, even if they say they do, doesn't adopt that approach. There is still a very low tolerance to kind of making mistakes or trying things. And I wonder whether that kind of pressure to always be right might also.
I do agree with that, and I work with a lot of teams, and I think there is a heavy dependence on process, quite a lot of box ticking. More and more kind of bureaucratic layers of things that you have to get right, and regulatory pressures and all those sorts of things that come in. And in a way, I think those things have become worse over the last few years, whereas the culture, if you like, working as teams has improved. Whereas when I started working with teams, I think it was much more that individuals felt under pressure because there wasn't much teamwork, and that was a very old-fashioned culture. I think that's largely changed. But you're right. I think it's because what I think is, from what I've read of people's issues at work, is a lot of it is to do with control. And if as you say, you have control over ideas and things, and what happens, you feel better about it. You feel you can change things. But if you're stuck in the hamster wheel, as I say, you feel that that's it. That's your life, as it were. And it may not look stressful from the outside because you're just doing a job 9 to 5, but you're whatever. I think that's, again, I think that's perhaps something that Tin and people should think about when they're thinking about this market, is that it's not just about the culture. It's about really the kind of how the work is and what and not just about workloads, but what the kind of work is that we all do. We want interesting jobs. We want jobs where you have some control and some options, as you say, to have success through ideas or innovation. So that's why I partly think that innovation is so important, and we don't have enough of it. I don't think we have, people like Caroline Bedford will agree with this. We have to kind of train in things like curiosity and ideas and all those sorts of things into organizations that naturally are risk averse and not wanting to be curious. So yeah, it all links up, all this stuff, doesn't it? In the end, do you want to go and work for Berkshire Hathaway saying, I don't think we'll bother about AI for a while? If you're thinking, I think this is amazing, there's all sorts of things I could do, then Berkshire Hathaway will be off your list.
Yeah. It was. I remember when, I think we've talked about this a few years ago, when you did a study and you had a list of kind of the drivers for people either changing jobs, or I can't quite remember what the survey was. And obviously, money was up there, but there was a whole bunch of other factors that were really quite high, in terms of what motivated people to join organizations or not.
Yes, I think that's still the case. It's an employer brand study, but it's in several studies that we look at. So you'd get, one of the things I think beyond pay and rations is culture. People talk about, and they talk about teamwork. They talk about successful businesses. They want to join successful businesses. And at a practical level, they would like to have flexible working. That's one of the things that is kind of, I think, is becoming set in the minds of many, particularly younger people, saying that's something we do want. We want you to work that out. Studies like this are kind of interesting because if you come away from the detail of it, the generality of it is saying the same sort of things about where do you go in the future with working practices. To what extent are you in a set of rules and procedures in an organization, and versus having some rules and procedures, but also the leeway, enough rope to fail, as you say, to make mistakes and to try new things. And you can't have innovation if you don't try new things, or you think it's too risky to do it. It doesn't happen. And it's probably fair to say there isn't much innovation in the market at the moment, really.
Nope. But I think let's watch this space. It's a lot happening. I'll tell you that. So,
yeah, no, I agree. I think that's the good thing. So maybe that we've got the zeitgeist right, and it is about, it's all going to change.
Yeah,
we'll all be surfing a wave.
Cool. Right, let's wrap things up, Ben. What are you doing this weekend? You playing golf yesterday. Let's talk about that a bit. So,
I did play golf. Yes, very nice. First game of the year. Yeah. It's all right. I had a good. I was saying to you, I had a good in parts, and then it all trailed off. I think I just got tired, actually. Oh. And That's what caused me the
Collapse.
problem. Yeah, but I did have a bit of a collapse. So but I need to be match fit for it, I think, really.
Right. Okay.
But
That's
it was good. No, it was good. It was good.
good. I don't know anything about golf,
Oh,
so that's all I'm going to say.
well, it's a game I've gone on and off over the years, but I quite like it now. Yes, it's a nice day out, but it's a lot of time. That's the only thing.
Yeah, I think
It's a lot of time.
Puts me off. So are you doing golf this weekend or something else?
No, I'm going to go climbing this weekend. So that's the other thing I do.
I thought you were going to say clubbing. I was like,
I might go clubbing. I could. Oh, no, I'm not going clubbing. God, I'll just go climbing.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I think I might. The weather looks like it's brightening up, so I might.
It's beautiful. Yeah, it's going to be lovely. Yeah. So yes.
Off
What
the
about
old-
you?
Yeah, I think I'll dust off the old bike and have a
Really?
bit of a ride around. Yeah.
That's
So,
good.
I got a mountain bike last year, and I think I probably said, but we went mountain biking. I went mountain biking for the first time in the bike park Wales
Oh yes.
thing, and I just couldn't believe that I'd missed out on this for so long because it's so much fun.
It is good. Yeah. Yeah.
So I bought a mountain bike, and we've got lots of tracks around us and trails. So, so it's good fun.
Go for it. Yeah. Good man.
Good. Right. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you next week. A bit of a Bieber update.
Yeah.
Have a nice weekend, everyone. And see you next week.
Have a good one.
Bye.